Hi there YouTube, it's me Morphsuit America playing on Phantasy Star Online 2, and this video will be explaining to you guys the difference between new type and old type weapons. This is very basic, but this is directed more towards new players to give you guys some insights about X, Y, and Z. Now if you already know about this stuff, then this video isn't for you. Now when it comes to new type weapons, they've been implemented into the game ever since episode 4 came out. Just take note that not all weapons that are released in episode 4 era are new types. For example, the 13 stars you get from the Tokyo Exploration, or from all of the stones you gather from Tokyo Exploration or Tokyo bonus crests, those 13 stars are not new type weapons, they are old type weapons. Now when it comes to collection files, that's a new thing that they also implemented into episode 4. All of those 13 stars are new type weapons, and it's very beneficial to actually start doing those here and now because of a certain requirement that's going to kick in, but I'll talk about that at the end of this video. Now to figure out if this is really a new type weapon, you need to actually look at your weapon. You can do this by opening up your inventory or your weapon palette. You hover over your weapon that you want to look at, and there's some things you want to pay attention to. The biggest indicator to the fact that it's a new type weapon is the grind experience bar. This is only located on new type weapons. Old type weapons do not have such a thing, as you can see here. This is an old type weapon and it doesn't have it. Now when it comes to new type weapons, they exceed past the grind level of plus 10. As you can see here, this is an old type weapon, it's stuck at plus 10. But when it comes to new type weapons, they can exceed that, and the max level for a new type weapon is plus 35. So if it's plus 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, etc., all the way up to 35, it's a new type weapon. A little snippet here is that if it's a new type weapon, the potential will be located beneath the description compared to being stuck with all of the abilities down here on the first tab of your details. And lastly, if it has NT in its name, that stands for new type, and obviously it's a new type weapon. Pretty much that concludes the little differences in the actual description of your item details and figuring out if this is a new type weapon or a type weapon. Now let me talk about the grinding experience, and no, I'm not referring to anything dirty, guys. I'm referring to the fact that when you actually level up your weapon, new type grinding is easier compared to old type grinding, and old type grinding is a pain in the ass, and I'll explain why later. But the biggest difference between these two is that grinding experience. You will have a very easy time when it comes to grinding a new type compared to an old type, but I'll leave it at that. Now when it comes to abilities, if you want to actually affix certain abilities on a new type or old type weapon, it doesn't really matter if you use fodder of an old type or new type weapon. You do want to pay attention to the market and see if you can get something for cheaper. If like the new type weapon is cheaper for a certain ability compared to an old type weapon, then yeah, definitely do so, but most of the time it should be around the same price. But when it comes to affixing, it doesn't matter if it's an old type or new type. Use whatever you want to use at a cheap price. But yeah, another thing I want to mention when it comes to new type weapons, old type weapons do not have this feature I'm going to bring up, but when you plus 35 a new type weapon, it actually gets an ability with it. And by an ability, I mean like one of those good abilities or bad abilities. It depends on how you define it, but yeah, as you can see here, when I actually affix this katana, the list of abilities I can actually use, you can see that this one is rather strange. Not only does it have a strange name to it, but it actually has this strange icon. This is an ability that will stay permanently with your weapon no matter what, and it's due to the fact that you have a plus 35 weapon. Now this is very flexible or situational, because depending on what weapon you have, let's say your special ability once you plus 35 a new type weapon is a technique 5. Usually it would correspond to whatever your weapon type is. Let's imagine this is a rod, and yeah, like I said, this is technique 5. That makes sense because a rod is based around T attack and you want an ability around T attack. Now if you have a rifle, for example, most likely if it's from the same weapon set, it will have a different sort of ability, but it will be like shoot 5 instead. So it corresponds to what your weapon is, or like it corresponds or complements. It complements what your weapon is. So it doesn't really give you a useless plus 35 ability. And another thing I want to note is that this ability, like I stated, sticks with you no matter what, and it will always be at 100% unless you upslot. Now, when it comes to affixing and you don't know your terms or you don't know X, Y, and Z, I made a playlist way back then talking about how to affix and some rules and concepts you need to know. You can view it at the end of this video, but most likely I'll be making a revamped version of it because I need to make a revamped version of how to affix. But pretty much, even though this wasn't originally at a 6 slot, I made it into a 6 slot. Like, even though you upslot it from a 4 slot to a 5 slot and you don't use this ability, this will still stay with your weapon because of the fact that you plus 35 it. And that's an extra free 100% ability right there compared to like spending some money just so you can have something in there. So when it comes to new type weapons, that's a huge edge compared to an old type weapon. An old type weapon cannot give you that benefit because these abilities you see on this old type weapons I had to make personally, or I had to put on personally, and yeah, even though I plus 40 it, I didn't have a special plus 40 special ability. So let me go back onto the topic when it comes to grinding, and you can see the video and most likely you'll understand what I'm talking about. But when it comes to old type grinding, it was a pain in the ass because compared to new type grinding, when you feed a weapon into this and increase the grind experience bar, there is no chance of failure. You'll continue to go forward instead of backwards. And that's pretty straightforward, and if you know how to feed your weapon properly as well, it's only going to cost a few 100 million, it might take like maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 million meseta if you feed it properly, or most likely below 3 million meseta, but yeah, and it's not that stressful. When it comes to old type weapons, it varies because you will be dealing with some RNG. When it comes to old type weapons 13 stars, you got a 50-50% chance of getting a success or fail. That's how simple it is. Even though you may hit like plus 9 and trying to go to plus 10, you still got 50-50% chance. Now, there are some ways to increase the percentage so you don't exactly fail, but here's the thing when it comes to old type grinding. There is a chance for you to backtrack. So if you were at plus 9 and you're going to plus 10, you can either fail and stay at plus 9, worst case scenario would be fail and go to plus 8, or even worse would be go from plus 9 to plus 7. And yeah, as you can see, if you don't have a lot of resources to kind of help you increase those chances and you keep on spending and spending, you might be wasting a shit ton of meseta or even lambda grinders or even a bunch of boosters in general. So yeah, the biggest issue was you had to get this to plus 10. Now, once you get it to plus 10 and you don't actually have a potential unlocked, you have to restart this grind value. Once you restart that grind value, you do unlock the potential, but you have to start all over at plus 0 again and work your way back up to plus 10 so you can increase the level potential again, get it to to get the potential to level 3, and then you had to plus 10 it one more time, equaling up to plus 40. Now, this was very painful, like I said, and it takes a shit ton of resources. You can see how much time I had to go back and forth just so I can just so I can grind my austere weapon 13 star old type. And pretty much when it came to new type weapons, I didn't spend a lot of money making this thing, not even the affixes as well. So yeah, old type grinding, you can definitely play around with it, or you can definitely go do old type grinding if you're still new to the game and you haven't exactly went through said struggles and you want to see how difficult it is, then go ahead and do so. Excuse me, I had a burp. But pretty much, yeah, old type grinding was a pain in the ass, and the new type grinding is very, very helpful, and it doesn't take that much. It doesn't give you guys a lot of stress. And I'm kind of envious of all of the new players getting into episode 4 and they're getting a bunch of the, new type weapons because they don't have to deal with this bullshit. But yeah, when it comes to new type weapons as well, the biggest thing I'll talk about now is the level cap. Right now the level cap is at level 75. However, with the new requirements for the next level cap, which will be level 80, you need a new type weapon to further advance in levels. And not only that, to go to the expert blocks, you also need a new type weapon. Now, there's other requirements when it comes to actually getting past level 75 and stuff, but I'll save it for a separate video. All I can state is this. When it comes to getting past that level cap from level 75 to 80, you need to have a plus 35 weapon of your class. Now, what I mean by that is, if you're a braver, for example, you need a plus 35 katana and or plus 35 bow. Now, the reason why I say and or is because you can have both if you want, but you just need one of them. Or technically I should actually stick with you need a plus 35 katana or a plus 35 bow. Now this does not include your subclass. So if you want to level up your subclass from level 75 to level 80, you also need to have a level plus 35 sword, new type sword. Okay, I'm stuck. Sword, wire lance, or partisan. There we go. And that's for a hunter. So hopefully you get the gist of what you need to do and what you need to prepare yourself for when it comes to getting from level 75 to 80. Now, the other requirement is the fact that you had to also have class X cubes and also fulfill all of the skill point requirements from your NPC teacher, but like I stated, I'll make that as a separate video. Now, that concludes this video. So what are your thoughts about new type weapons? If you're an old player ever since beta or alpha or episode 1, 2, or 3, what are your thoughts about this new grinding? Is it easy? Are you envious of all these new players getting into PSO2? Or it's better to have this new type grind system. I mean, I like the new type grind system, don't get me wrong, but I'm just kind of salty about the fact that we had to struggle through it in the beginning. But then again, it's an MMORPG, so things do change over time. But yeah, let me know in the comments below what you guys think, or if you have any questions or concerns, especially when it comes to new type grinding. If you're still new to it and you want some advice and pointers, leave it in the comments below. I'll make a video talking about how to grind your new type weapon eventually, or if you have questions about collection files as well, leave it down there. And if you're still new to the game, I have a video talking about how to read your weapons and units. Definitely check that at the end of this video or in the description below or in my channel. But once again, this concludes the difference between new type and old type weapons. And thank you guys for watching. Hopefully this helps a lot of new players understand about X, Y, and Z. And yeah. Alright, so apparently I have a brain fart, so I apologize for that. But that concludes this video once again. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys around. Peace.
Maybe you crash into you. Maybe you open these wounds. We're only alive if we bruise. So I lay down this armor. I will surrender to a knife before we both lose this fight. Take my defenses on